A neuroscientist named Gregory Burns spent 15 years with a pug named Newton. They had their routines, the couch, the walks, the way Newton would press into his leg while he worked. Then Newton's spine gave out, his back leg stopped working, and on the last day, Burns held him and watched his dog take one final snort of air and go still. And in that silence, Burns realized something that shook him. He had never in 15 years known whether Newton actually loved him, whether any of it was real, or whether he was just the person who opened the cans. That question would consume the next decade of his career. And the answer would come from a mace, 13 dogs, and a choice nobody expected. Here's the thing nobody warns you about when you share a dog with another person. At some point, you will be standing in your own home, watching your dog lose their mind over someone who didn't even remember to buy the food this week, and it stings in a way that's weirdly hard to explain to anyone who hasn't felt it. You won't say anything. You'll just notice. Most of what you'll find online about this will tell you the same three things. Dogs bond with whoever feeds them. Dogs imprint during the first 6 months. And dogs prefer people who match their energy. All true. None of it is the interesting part. The interesting part is what we can now see happening inside a dog's brain when they encounter the person they've chosen. So let's start with what you think is going on when your dog picks a favorite, because you're probably half right and wrong about the half that matters. You think it's about who gives them the most. It's not, or at least not the way you mean. Your dog isn't tallying treats. They're tracking something subtler. Whose behavior is the most predictable? The person who responds the same way most of the time, not perfectly, consistently, becomes the person your dog's nervous system files under safe. And safety for a dog isn't passive. It's permission. Permission to relax. Permission to stop scanning the environment. Permission to play. You also think it's about affection partly, but dogs don't bond hardest with whoever pets them the most. They bond with whoever is the most legible. Steady voice, readable body language, no sudden mood shifts. Your dog is a fluency machine. They're drawn to the person they can decode the fastest. And if your dog had that person during their first 6 months of life, when their brain was still building its social wiring, that signal isn't just strong, it's foundational. It's the template. All right, let me show you what this looks like when you put it under laboratory conditions, because it's the kind of finding that sounds small and then doesn't leave you alone. A team at the University of Veterinary Medicine in Vienna brought dogs into an unfamiliar room and gave them a problem to solve. Manipulative toys, the kind where you nudge or paw something open for a treat. Not complicated. Then they changed one thing. Who else was in the room? When the dog's owner was sitting nearby, not helping, not speaking, just there, the dogs worked longer, tried more strategies, engaged more fully with the problem. When the owner left and a friendly stranger sat in the same chair doing the same nothing, the dog slowed down, lost interest, gave up faster. The stranger was perfectly nice. The dogs didn't avoid them. They just couldn't use them. A kind stranger's presence didn't give the dogs the same internal permission to be brave. Researchers call this the secure base effect. It's borrowed directly from human infant psychology. A baby won't explore a new room if their parent isn't nearby, not because the parent is doing anything, because the parent's presence does something to the baby's nervous system. Lowers the alarm, enables curiosity. Your dog's favorite person is at the deepest level, the person whose presence makes them brave enough to engage with the world. You don't have to do anything. Sitting on the couch counts. Now you might hear that and think, okay, so my dog's favorite person is basically a security blanket. Familiar, comfortable, maybe even a little boring. But here's where it gets strange, because this bond isn't just behavioral, it's chemical. And the chemistry behind it is something dogs appear to have developed specifically during domestication to use on us. And we have the wolf data to prove it. A team at Azabu University in Japan brought dogs and their owners into a room and let them just be together for 30 minutes, petting, talking, hanging out. Before and after, they collected urine samples from both the dogs and the humans, which is exactly as awkward as it sounds. But the data was worth it. They were measuring oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding hormone, the same chemical that floods a mother's system during skin-to-skin contact with her newborn. Dogs who spent more of those 30 minutes gazing into their owner's eyes had significantly higher oxytocin afterward. But it wasn't one way. The owner's oxytocin spiked too. The dog's gaze triggered the human's chemistry. The human's softened behavior, the voice change, the reaching out triggered the dog's. A loop running both directions, getting stronger each time it fired. And this is the part I want you to remember. They ran the same protocol with hand-reared wolves. Wolves raised by people from birth, comfortable with humans. Wolves did not hold sustained eye contact with their handlers and no oxytocin loop activated. Not in the wolves, not in the humans. This mechanism, this mutual gaze loop, doesn't exist between wolves and people. It doesn't exist between dogs and strangers. It evolved specifically in dogs during domestication, and it targets the exact chemical system that bonds a parent to a child. Your dog didn't learn to love you, they evolved to. And every time they look at you and hold your gaze for a beat longer than they need to, that system is running. Which brings us back to Gregory Burns. Adopted a shy, skinny terrier mix named Callie from a shelter. Then he did something nobody had done. He trained her to lie still inside an fMRI scanner, awake, unrestrained, no sedation, so he could watch her brain respond to the world in real time. Callie was the first. Eventually, the project grew to over 100 dogs. In 2016, his team ran the experiment that would finally answer the question Newton left behind. 13 dogs were trained to associate one object with food and another with verbal praise from their owner. Brain scans showed that in the majority of those dogs, the caudate nucleus, the brain's anticipation of something good center, responded to their owner's praise with equal or greater intensity than it did to food. Then came the maze, food down one path, their person down the other. 20 trials each. Most of the dogs went to their person, not all, but most. And the brain scans predicted it perfectly. The dogs whose caudate lit up brighter for praise were the same ones who chose the human over the food bowl, trial after trial. And then there was Aussie. Aussie, a short-haired terrier mix, chose food every single time. 20 for 20. Burns said publicly and with a straight face, Aussie was a bit of an outlier, but Aussie's owner understands him and still loves him. Every dog runs this calculation differently. Some are Aussies, most are not. Okay, I want to talk directly to some of you now because I know a portion of the people watching this video clicked it for a specific reason. You suspect or you know that you're not your dog's number one. You do everything. You are the one who shows up and your dog still goes to someone else first. I need you to hear this, and it comes from the research, not from me trying to make you feel better. The secure-based data shows that the person a dog orients toward most isn't always the person who does the most. It's often the person whose nervous system most closely matches their own. A nervous dog gravitates toward the calmest presence in the house, even if that person forgets to fill the water bowl. An anxious dog may attach to whoever is most predictable, not whoever is most loving. That's not a judgment of your effort. That's a nervous system finding a frequency it can read. And socialization timing matters enormously. If your dog bonded with someone else during their first critical months, that wiring goes deep. You didn't fail. You arrived after the foundation was already set. But here's what the Vienna research also tells us. The secure base effect isn't permanent. Dogs can and do shift their primary attachment when routines change. When someone new becomes the steady, quiet, predictable presence, not through grand gestures, through showing up again and again in ways the dog's nervous system can learn to count on. You are not losing a contest. You are building a foundation. I keep thinking about Burns and Newton, 15 years on the couch together, 15 years of walks and leg presses and routines that neither of them thought about because they just were. And then it was over. And the question that was left wasn't, was I a good owner? It was, did he know me? Did any of it register? It took a decade of 100 dogs and brain scanners and a terrier mix named Callie to get to an answer. And the answer from the caudate nucleus data and the gaze loops and the maze and every study that followed is yes, your dog knows you. Not your name, not your job, your scent, your rhythm, your nervous system signature. They carry you in their brain the way you carry them in yours. That's not a metaphor. That's what the scans show. I want to hear this. What's the moment you realized who your dog's person was? Not the obvious stuff, the quiet, weird, specific thing. The way they position themselves during a thunderstorm, who they bring the toy to first, who they check on when they hear a noise. Tell me in the comments, I read these. Okay, so that's a wrap up for today's video. I'll be back with a new one soon.